The woman standing on my front porch looked me straight in the eyes, held up a wedding ring, and said the one sentence that shattered my world. "I'm looking for my husband," she said calmly. "His name is Daniel Carter." My husband. The coffee mug slipped from my hand and exploded across the hardwood floor. She didn't flinch. Neither did I. For a heartbeat, all I could hear was the ticking clock in the hallway and the blood pounding inside my ears. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "You must have the wrong house." "I wish I did." She pulled a folded marriage certificate from her purse. "My name is Rebecca Lawson. I've been married to Daniel Carter for 9 years. 9 years. I had been married to Daniel for 8. Before I could speak, I heard footsteps behind me. Daniel walked into the hallway, still wearing the old blue t-shirt he always slept in on Saturdays. His hair was messy, and he was rubbing his eyes. "Emma, who's at the—" He stopped. The color drained from his face so quickly it was as if someone had switched off the light inside him. His lips parted. "Rebecca." The way he said her name wasn't confusion. It was recognition. Pure fear. My heart dropped into my stomach. "You know her?" I asked. Neither of them answered. Rebecca looked at him with tears gathering in her eyes. "I finally found you." Daniel looked like he might collapse. For nearly a minute, nobody moved. Finally, I stepped aside. "You'd both better come inside." The silence in our living room felt heavier than concrete. Rebecca sat stiffly on the couch. Daniel refused to sit at all. He paced. His hands shook. I had never seen my husband nervous, not when he lost his job during the pandemic, not when his father passed away, not even during surgery 3 years ago. But today. He looked terrified. I folded my arms. "Somebody starts talking now." Rebecca reached into her purse again. "I wasn't trying to destroy your marriage." I laughed bitterly. "A little late for that." She swallowed. "I spent almost 10 years believing my husband disappeared because he abandoned me." I turned toward Daniel. "Did you?" "No." His answer came so quickly it almost startled me. "No, Emma. That's not what happened." Rebecca stared at him. "Then tell her." He couldn't. He simply lowered his head. She took over. "We married in Denver 9 years ago." She slid several photographs onto the coffee table. Wedding photos. There was Daniel. Younger. Smiling. Holding Rebecca's hand. My stomach twisted. The date printed beneath one photograph made my vision blur. It was real. Every photo looked authentic. Every smile looked genuine. I looked back at Daniel. "Were you married to her?" He closed his eyes. "Yes." The room spun. I grabbed the arm of the chair to steady myself. "You lied to me." "I never wanted." "Don't." My voice cracked. 8 years together, and you forgot to mention another wife? It's not like that. Rebecca suddenly spoke. "I don't think he's lying." I looked at her in disbelief. "You've got to be kidding." She slowly shook her head. "When Daniel disappeared, he left everything behind." She pulled another envelope from her purse. The apartment. Bank statements. Medical records. Police reports. A missing person investigation. My anger paused. "Missing?" Rebecca continued quietly. "I searched for him for 3 years." Daniel covered his face. "I hired private investigators." He still said nothing. "I even visited morgues." The room fell silent. Rebecca looked at me with exhausted eyes. "I buried an empty coffin because everyone convinced me he was dead." A chill ran through me. I looked back at my husband. His shoulders trembled. "I thought," Rebecca whispered. "I thought I was burying the love of my life." Daniel finally spoke. So did I. Both of us stared at him. He slowly lowered his hands. My name wasn't always Daniel Carter. Neither Rebecca nor I breathed. My real name. He hesitated. Was Michael Lawson. Rebecca gasped. No. He nodded. I changed everything. I felt the floor disappear beneath me. What are you talking about? He looked at both of us with tears filling his eyes. Everything you believed about me. He took one slow breath. Started the day someone tried to kill me. And before either of us could ask another question, someone began pounding violently on the front door. The pounding on the front door grew louder. Whoever was outside wasn't waiting for an invitation. Daniel, no. Michael froze. His breathing turned shallow. Don't answer it, he whispered. I stared at him. You've already hidden enough from me. The knocking came again. Police, a voice called. Open the door, please. Rebecca stood first. I'll get it. No. Daniel shouted. The fear in his voice stopped all of us. For a second, nobody moved. Then I walked to the door myself. When I opened it, 2 officers stood on the porch. Mrs. Carter? Yes. We're sorry to disturb you. We received a report that someone connected to an old missing person case may be at this address. I looked back at Daniel. His face had gone completely white. One officer noticed him immediately. Sir. He studied Daniel's face. Michael Lawson? Daniel slowly nodded. I've spent 9 years pretending not to be him. The officers exchanged surprised glances. We're going to need everyone to stay calm. They stepped inside. After confirming Daniel's identity, one officer asked gently, Mr. Lawson, are you finally ready to tell your story? Daniel looked at Rebecca. Then at me. Finally, he whispered, I think it's time. He sat down for the first time that morning. His hands rested on his knees, trembling. 9 years ago, I worked as a financial investigator for a construction company. Rebecca nodded. I remember. I discovered millions of dollars had disappeared. He swallowed hard. The money wasn't stolen by strangers. Who? I asked. My own business partner. Victor Hale. The name meant nothing to me. But the fear in Daniel's eyes did. When I confronted him, he smiled. Daniel's voice cracked. He told me I had 2 choices. Rebecca squeezed the edge of the couch. Join him, or disappear. I reported everything to federal investigators. The officers nodded quietly. We have records of that, one confirmed. Daniel continued. 3 days later, someone forced my car off a mountain road. Rebecca covered her mouth. I remember the accident. They found the car. He nodded. They found it. But they never found me. I leaned forward. How? I survived. The room became perfectly still. I woke up in a hospital nearly 200 miles away. He rubbed his forehead as though reliving every painful second. My head injury erased almost everything. Rebecca stared at him. You didn't remember me? I didn't remember anyone. His voice broke. I didn't even remember my own name. I felt my anger slipping away, replaced by confusion. The doctors couldn't identify me. My wallet was gone. My fingerprints weren't in the local system. So how did you become Daniel Carter? I asked. A volunteer at the hospital. He smiled sadly. His name was Samuel Carter. He had lost his own son years earlier. He helped me recover. When nobody came looking. Rebecca whispered, because everyone thought you were dead. Daniel nodded. Samuel gave me a place to live. He helped me rebuild. And when I finally needed legal documents after years of therapy. You took his last name. I did. The room fell silent. But, Rebecca asked carefully, why didn't you come back after your memory returned? Daniel looked away. It came back slowly. Little pieces. A song. A street. A face. My wedding day. He looked at Rebecca with unbearable sadness. I remembered you. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Then why? Because by then. He turned toward me. I had already fallen in love again. I stopped breathing. I didn't know what was right anymore. I thought returning would destroy 2 lives. So you chose one. Rebecca's words were quiet. Not angry. Just heartbroken. Daniel nodded once. I convinced myself you had moved on. Rebecca laughed through tears. I buried you. I know. I talked to your photograph every Sunday. I know. I never stopped loving you. The words hung in the air like broken glass. I felt invisible. For the first time since they met again, I realized I wasn't watching strangers. I was watching 2 people whose lives had been stolen. And somehow, I had become part of the tragedy. One of the officers finally spoke. Mr. Lawson. Daniel looked up. We have another reason we're here. The officer reached into his folder. Victor Hale was arrested yesterday. Daniel's eyes widened. What? He was caught trying to leave the country. Rebecca gasped. The officer placed several photographs on the table. He confessed to financial crimes. Daniel stared at the photos. But the officer's expression darkened. He also confessed something else. The room became painfully quiet. He admitted. The officer paused. That your car crash wasn't an accident. Daniel's face went numb. He hired someone to kill you. I reached for Daniel's hand without thinking. He gripped mine tightly. But before anyone could process the news, the officer added one final sentence. And there's something even worse. He looked directly at Rebecca. Mrs. Lawson. We believe someone close to you helped Victor find your husband. Rebecca frowned. What are you talking about? The officer opened another file. Inside was a photograph. Rebecca stared at it. Then every bit of color vanished from her face. No. She whispered. Not my brother. Rebecca's hands began to shake. She picked up the photograph as if it might burn her. No. Her voice cracked. This has to be a mistake. The officer sighed. We hoped it was. The man in the picture was smiling beside Victor Hale at a charity fundraiser held years ago. His name was Ethan Lawson. Rebecca's older brother. The man who had helped organize Michael's memorial. The man who had comforted Rebecca every Sunday at the cemetery. The man she trusted more than anyone. I don't understand, she whispered. The officer opened the file. Victor Hale admitted that Ethan learned about the missing money. Instead of reporting it, he accepted payment to stay quiet. Rebecca stared blankly. No. He also agreed to tell everyone Michael was dead before investigators had enough evidence. Daniel frowned. But why? The officer looked at Rebecca with sympathy. Victor promised Ethan a large share of the stolen money. Rebecca's breathing became uneven. My brother sold my husband? The officer nodded. He believed Michael would never be found. Daniel lowered his head. So all those searches. Rebecca looked devastated. Ethan kept telling me to stop looking. She remembered every conversation. You deserve peace. Michael would want you to move on. Let him rest. Those weren't comforting words anymore. They were instructions. Instructions to stop asking questions. Tears streamed down her face. I trusted him. At that moment, another car pulled into the driveway. Rebecca looked through the window. It's Ethan. The officers exchanged quick glances. One stepped outside. Ethan walked toward the house carrying a grocery bag, smiling as if it were an ordinary afternoon. Then he saw the police. His smile disappeared. Rebecca? His eyes landed on Daniel. Everything changed. For one brief second. He looked terrified. Then he turned and ran. "Stop," an officer shouted. Ethan sprinted across the yard, but he didn't get far. Within moments, the officers caught him near the sidewalk. As they placed him in handcuffs, he looked directly at Daniel. "I didn't know they'd actually try to kill you." Rebecca froze. "What did you say?" "I only told Victor where Michael was going that night." His voice broke. "I thought they just wanted to scare him." The entire neighborhood seemed to fall silent. Rebecca slowly walked toward her brother. "You watched me cry for 9 years." Ethan couldn't meet her eyes. "You held me while I buried an empty coffin." Still no answer. "You looked into my face every Christmas, every birthday, every anniversary." Her voice shattered. "And you knew." Ethan whispered, "I'm sorry." Rebecca slapped him across the face. "Not out of hatred. Out of heartbreak. You didn't steal my money." She was crying so hard she could barely stand. "You stole my life." The officers led Ethan away without another word. For a long time, none of us spoke. Weeks passed. Victor Hale and Ethan both pleaded guilty to multiple crimes. The stolen money was recovered. Justice finally arrived. 9 years late. But the hardest part wasn't the courtroom. It was everything that came afterward. One rainy afternoon, Rebecca asked if she could meet Daniel and me at a quiet park. She held 2 cups of coffee. One for him. One for me. "I've thought about this every day," she said softly. Daniel looked down. "So have I." Rebecca smiled through tears. "When I first knocked on your door." She turned to me. "I wanted someone to blame." "I know," I answered gently. "But after hearing the truth." She looked at Daniel. "I realized none of us chose this." Daniel's eyes filled. "I'm sorry." Rebecca nodded. "I believe you." She took a deep breath. "The man I married disappeared on that mountain." She smiled sadly. "The man sitting here today survived, but he's lived another life." Daniel couldn't hold back his tears anymore. "I'll always care about you." "I know." She reached into her purse one last time. It wasn't another document. It wasn't another photograph. It was her wedding ring. She looked at it for a long moment before placing it into Daniel's hand. "You don't have to carry this anymore." His shoulders shook as he closed his fingers around it. Rebecca stood. She looked at me. "Take good care of him." I hugged her without saying a word. She hugged me back. Not as rivals. Not as enemies. But as 2 women who had both lost something precious to the same cruel lie. Months later, Daniel and I visited the small hill where his wrecked car had been found years before. The wildflowers had returned. The trees had grown taller. Life had continued. Daniel slipped Rebecca's wedding ring into a small wooden box and buried it beneath an old oak tree. Not to erase the past, but to honor it. He whispered, "Thank you for never giving up on me." The wind carried the words through the branches. As we walked back to the car, he reached for my hand. "I spent years believing my life was built on broken pieces," he said quietly. I squeezed his hand. "Maybe it was." He looked at me. "But broken pieces can become something beautiful when they're put together with truth." A few weeks later, a handwritten letter arrived from Rebecca. It contained only one sentence. "The day I knocked on your door, I thought I had come to reclaim my husband. Instead, I reclaimed my future." I folded the letter carefully and placed it in our family album. Not as a reminder of betrayal, but as proof that the truth may arrive late. Yet when it finally does, it has the power to free every heart it touches.